Welcome back to the Movie Review Teacher, where I waste my time so you do not have to on movies like this. We are here today reviewing the newest release, the third and final installment of The Strangers, and this is Chapter 3. Now, if you've seen the first two movies, you kind of have an understanding of what is going on. You understand that the first movie was absolutely atrocious. Movie number 2 was still the same, except at the ending, you got a little bit of a buy-in to what could happen in the third movie. And then ultimately, we get the third movie. Now, as you look at this movie, you have to really look at it from many different aspects. Number one, what is it being built as? It's being built as a suspenseful horror movie where you're going to have violence. You're going to have these suspenseful moments where you're trying to figure out what's going to happen and how is it going to play out. But as you see in the first two movies, you really don't have that. Now, in 2024, Chapter 1 was one of my top 10 worst movies of the year. In 2025, Chapter 2 was one of the worst movies in my top 5 list. And now, unfortunately, it seems as if Chapter 3 is going the exact same route. Now, when you look at this movie, I have to really point out that I think Maya is a character that never really evolved, and you really couldn't buy into what she was doing. And you see that in movie number 3. Now, movie number 3 is set after the events, obviously, in movie number 2. You really get into that about 15 minutes in, and you kind of get this time lapse where you're able to go forward a little bit and see the continuation of the ending of the second movie. The unfortunate part with this movie, and I think even though the third one is better, it still gives you way too much early on, where as the movie is telling the story on the screen, you can't buy into what is taking place. Within 20 minutes of the movie, you knew who the killer was, you knew what was going to happen, and you understood the events of the ending of movie number 2 and how that is going to translate into movie number 3. Now, when you look at Maya, now we have her in a little bit of a different situation. We have her escaping the ambulance and the situation in the ending of the second, and now she is trying to find her way home or to her sister. You really don't get a tale of that on the screen because what you really have is a lot of flashbacks. And with these flashbacks, it's almost as if they are building up what we should have had in Chapter 2. And so now in the finale, we are looking at why the killers are doing what they're doing. We get an idea of who they are. We get an idea of the characters and what their role in this entire situation is. And ultimately, I will give it credit. It does bring everything together one last time where maybe if you missed something in movie number 1 or 2, you now have an opportunity to see it in the third movie. But then we look at that from the time perspective, and I feel like having it in the third movie, if you were trying to buy into what is on the screen and understand what is taking place, they waited too long. Because now by movie number 3, you have already eliminated a complete audience that wants to sit down in this movie and see what is going to take place. And I think as you watch movie number 3, you're really going to get a feeling of why wasn't this done sooner? Because, again, you could have had more buy-in to the story on the screen. Now, I will say the one good thing about this movie coming to an end and the finale and the trilogy closing is that we don't have to hear, "Is Tamara here?" anymore. Because as you look at movie number 2, I feel like they ended it in a way that was believable and it had you kind of wondering what was going to happen next. But the story in movie number 3 is not going to give you the complete answers that you are seeking. Number 1, we go back to Maya as a character. Maya should have evolved by the third movie, and you do not have that. You have that weird scene in Chapter 2 where it almost is like they're trying to recreate the Halloween 2 hospital scene, but Maya doesn't really talk. Maya really doesn't provide any perspective to the scene or the situations. Now we are focused on the killers. We are focused on the community and their feelings towards those that are outside people. And so as you try to watch, you're trying to figure out, okay, what is Maya going to do next? Where is Maya going to go? You don't have that. The timing issue, that is a problem. But I think the one thing that really stood out in movie number 3 is the predictability in the kill scenes. You knew exactly what was going to happen way before it even got close to that situation taking place on the screen. So as you're watching these prospective kills begin to happen, you're really looking at it going, okay, it makes sense. You hear the music get loud, you see what takes place, and you're really not thinking to yourself, wow, that was a good executed kill on the screen, because it wasn't. Blood. You could have almost made this a PG-13 trilogy, because in the third movie, the way the kills are done, you don't have a lot of blood. You do not see what you want to see in a slasher or a horror movie. And to me, that is a problem, because I want to believe what is being put on the screen, but you can't. And I think that is the problem that this movie has. Now let's look at some of the things I think are done well. Going back to the stories of the killers, I think they do a well enough job where you're able to watch the movie and you can see the perspective of the sheriff, who is under the masks, and ultimately how the town feels about those from the outside. And so obviously what you have in this movie is a feeling of keeping things the way they are. They don't want outside people coming in, and they're also kind of showing who is the target. And so at least from that perspective, it's believable. It's understandable. And I think another thing that kind of stands out, I mean, it's there, but then it goes away, is just the overall pacing of the movie. And that's outside of what you see in the time going back and jumping back into the situation. I feel like the pacing is done well enough where you're able to understand exactly what they're trying to tell you, I guess. But it's done in a way where if you're not paying attention, you're going to find yourself lost. But then we get to the overall rating. For me, when it comes to Strangers Chapter 3, it is a 1.5 out of 5. I feel like there are things done in this movie that needed to be done a lot earlier. I think that Maya is not a character that ever evolved. She almost is just a pawn in the game, and you believe that from the very beginning. It almost as if she's incapable of understanding how to escape the situation when they give her even a big hero kind of scene towards the end, which we'll get to in a second. But for me, it's a 1.5 out of 5. I don't think this movie's good. I don't think it's entertaining. I don't think it's enjoyable. I think it is the better of the 3 movies that you see on the screen, but it's just not good. And I think my final conclusion of this trilogy is that it is one of the worst of all time. I think the first movie absolutely eliminated an audience right from the very beginning. I think movie number 2 is a way of they kind of kept it the way it was, and by the ending of the movie, they wanted to kind of buy you back into what was going to be there. And movie number 3, I just feel like by that point, it's ran its course. And ultimately, the way the movie flows and the way that the story is being told, if you are already uninterested in what is taking place after the second movie, you're not going to really see and buy into the third movie. And I think what kind of culminates all of this is the way the movie ending. I'm not going to say exactly how, but you look at comments and things on Facebook and Instagram, and they're talking about how the ending, wow, that was great. That was done well. The ending is atrocious. It is one of the most anticlimactic situations that you would see in a slasher movie, where when you're looking at what is going to take place on that ending scene, you just don't believe it. You feel like it is just a waste of time, and it feels like this movie as a whole, this whole franchise or reboot, should have been done in one movie, a generic slasher movie. It would have had the audience at least wanting to go see it because it was an interesting premise of a reboot, a modernization, but ultimately stretching it out over 3 movies causes this movie to fail. So for me, when it comes to Strangers Chapter 3, it is a 1.5. This is a movie that I do not recommend you go and see, but if you want to go see it just to see how the movie ends, this may be for you, just to go see the ending. But Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for the continued support. Make sure to hit the subscribe button. Make sure to stay tuned for more reviews coming out. Make sure to go subscribe and follow me. Ooh, got a little tongue-tied. But follow me on all the social media pages. Stay tuned for more reviews coming, and I will talk to you all later.